What is up, guys? It's Dan the Man, and today I'm back with another tournament I played, this time at the College of University of Florida, where I am back for, taking classes. And apologize for the inactivity for a month. I've just been, busy getting back into the semester, having some classes, and there was a club tournament held at UF this past weekend, and I decided to play in it, see how I did. Format of the tournament was there were 5 games, and the time control wasn't my favorite. It was a pretty fast version of Classical with 25 plus 5 time control. So while there isn't any flagging, you just have less time to think, and it feels more like a rapid game than a blitz game. Than a classical game, sorry. So anyway, for this first round, I'm playing against people I don't know that really, but chances are they're students, and he is a student for round 1. His name is Ibrahim Yuksel. Hope I said that more or less correctly. He's rated 1690, and this game was very, very wild. It turned into one of the craziest king hunts I've seen in a long time, and there weren't even any queens on the board, so it was an endgame king hunt. So stick around and see how that happened. So I have the white pieces, and he's 1700, so I'm expecting this to be an easy win, but we'll see how that turns out in a second. So I begin the game with e4, as always. He goes c5, going to the Sicilian, knight f3, e6, c3, knight c6, d4, grabbing the center. We have a trade, and then he plays move knight f6, which I thought was a bit of a inaccuracy. Usually black plays d5, and then white can either take or push to e5, and it just depends on what white wants, whether an open position or a closed position. But he played knight f6, so generally the rule is you don't want to develop your knights when they can be pushed by pawns, and I could push to e5 here, but then I would let the knight go to d5, and there actually isn't a way to attack it again. I don't have a c-pawn, so I would just be creating an outpost for the knight. So instead of pushing, I play the move knight c3, and he plays the move bishop b4, just pinning the knight and threatening to take this pawn next turn. And this is the 25-minute time control, so we're both playing moves really quickly here. Here I play bishop d3, very sensible move, just developing another piece and defending the pawn. Here he plays d5, and I play e5, closing the position and kicking the knight away. He plays knight e4, obviously threatening to take on c3 and win the exchange after I take back and bishop takes. So I can either castle or break the pin or defend the knight. Here the engine recommends castling, which looks kind of weird because you're losing a pawn. But the engine evaluates this as being okay, which I don't think any human would evaluate this as fine first glance. So I play a very human move. I played the move bishop to d2 with the simple idea that I'm breaking the pin, and I'm happy if black takes on d2 because his knight is very strong there, and I would just that would be a good trade on my end. And I don't know, the engine says this is a mistake. So anyway, he plays knight takes d2. I play queen takes d2. And here he castles. And there's a theme in chess called Greek gift, where you sack on h7 and play knight g5. And that was the first thing that came to my mind here, because if you look at black's king, there's no knight on f6, and he practically doesn't have any defenders around his king. So I immediately started thinking if that works. Problem is that my pieces aren't all in the right starting positions. My queen needs to be on the d1 to h5 diagonal, but it's on the d2 to h6 diagonal. So, and also there needs to be a bishop on c1 to defend the knight on g5. So while the conditions look promising for a Greek gift, it's just not good. You should not sack here. So here I play the move h4. Now here I had 20 minutes left, so I used about 5 minutes of time. With the idea of h4 is that maybe I'm trying to reinforce the knight that way, and maybe try to create some sort of attack with the pawn on the king side. And here Ibrahim played the move f5, which I thought was a good move. Although With f5, he had 16 minutes left, and here I decided to en passant, which actually kind of helps black. My idea was by en passanting was because, first of all, it's forced. If you guys know the meme, if you guys know, you know. But even if it wasn't forced, I did it anyway because I thought I would reopen the diagonal for my bishop since the f-pawn blocked it, and I could just have more open lines for the king. But by doing this, I activate black's queen here. Black is hitting the d4 pawn, and even though I have some pieces towards the king, there's no like danger in the near future. Black, even though it looks good for you, you need to be able to concretely describe what you have. And if you just say, "Oh, there's a bishop pointing at h7," that's not really sufficient evidence. You have to provide moves and stuff. So queen takes f6 was played, and here I played knight g5 just to attack the pawn on h7 twice. And here I thought Ibrahim would go g6, just to block the attack. But here he played the move knight takes d4 after a long time of thinking. Here he had 9 minutes on the clock, and I had 18. And I thought he realized he was losing, so he just decided to play in a sort of a desperate move just because. And here, what's surprising is that I thought I was like +2 in this position. That was what was going through my mind. Turns out the engine says only white's slightly better at 0.78, which is kind of ludicrous. So obviously, he allows me to go knight takes h7, forking the queen and the rook, and I'm like, okay, I want a pawn towards his king. I'm forking the queen and the rook. I'm going to be up in exchange. Great first way to start the tournament, so it shouldn't be too bad. But he played queen e5 check here, and I was thinking about how to get out of check. At first, I was thinking maybe move the king somewhere to f1, which is what the engine actually says. And while that's playable, I decided to go for this move, queen e3. And apparently queen e3 is a mistake. My idea was that if the queen trades, I would take back with the pawn, and by trading, I attack the knight on d4, but also black's rook is still hanging. So by trading queens, I make 2 threats in the position against black. So that's why trading queens is not good here. And also if the queen wasn't, and also I'm attacking the black queen on e5, so black has to react to that in some way. So here Ibrahim played a really shocking move, which actually isn't that bad of a move. He played the move rook f5, and I'm like, what in the world is that? And what's crazy here is that the best move is to not take the rook. It's not to take the rook, which is, you literally moved in the line of your bishop, and you're telling me that you don't take the rook. That is just insane. Top move at the computer, long castles. I don't know why that's best. It's just, there's a lot of things hanging here, and all you do is just long castle. Apparently that's the way to do it. I don't know. I'm not Stockfish, but this was just really shocking when I analyzed this game. But anyway, as any human would, I took on f5. And apparently after doing this, black is now better. Because even though they're down in exchange, suddenly the knight takes on f5. I have an isolated pawn on e3. My knight is hanging on h7. And black actually has a lot of compensation here for being down the exchange. So here after knight takes f5, I play knight g5, the only square for my knight to go to. Obviously, Ibrahim takes on e3. Now he's threatening knight c2 check to fork the king and rook, and also to grab this pawn, so I figured might as well go king f2. And here he played the move bishop c5. Now it's back to even, but slightly in my favor. And bishop c5, I was actually hoping for him to try to threaten discoveries, because I noticed I could just attack his bishop. And if he moves the bishop somewhere random, if he's not careful, I would just take on e3. So he has to keep defending the knight on e3. So he plays bishop d4, like the only move, and I attack the bishop again, knight f3. And I'm like, where's your bishop going to go? So I thought e5 was the only move, and it is. e5 is the only move. You got to defend your bishop in some other way. And after I trade on d4, I'm down a pawn, but I'm still up in exchange, and black's pawns on the d file were isolated and doubled. So I'm like, okay, I'm probably going to win those pawns back pretty soon, and life is good. Even though it's a draw, objectively, from a human standpoint, white would win this more times than black would win this or draw. But here, the iconic king hunt begins. Ibrahim played with like 4 minutes on the clock, knight g4, double check. And I'm like, what about king g3? How are you going to deal with the bishop hanging and your knight hanging? If you go e5, which you guess you can still play technically, now it's much better for me because A, I got my king to a more active square, and B, I can play rook d1 or something. And this version is just way better than the previous one. So here, he did not play e5, and he gambles. He rolls rolls a big pair of dice. He plays the move bishop to f2 check, which, I mean, he's losing, but it's a good try to keep the game more complicated. If I play correctly, I'm still winning, but this is going to be incredibly precarious for where my king is going to be. So after bishop to f2 check, I take the knight on g4, looking very confused. And then I see the point. Oh, he plays e5 check. And suddenly, my king doesn't have too many squares to go to. Notice the pawn guards the f4 square, the bishop controls g3, and I have to keep coming forward. But I'm like, there's no way I'm getting mated. Look how few pieces black has. Black only has 2 bishops and a rook which hasn't moved. How is black going to checkmate me? There's no queens or anything. So I have a 50% chance of moving my king to the right square. Going to h5 is plus 2.5, but I instead, with like maybe 7 minutes on the clock from what I can remember, I picked the wrong square, and I play king g5. And now it's a draw. Actually, the engine says black is much better here. I didn't really think it mattered, because after bishop e3 check, I'm like, it's not scary. I have, again, 2 squares to move to, and there's just no way you're checkmating me, right? Even though it looks scary. But again, one move keeps the game more or less equal. The other game just throws the game out the window. And guess which one I pick? The worst one. I play king g6 in this position. I was scared of the king maybe. If I went to h5, I was scared maybe the king would go here and, threaten some sort of checkmate with g6. But I just wanted to keep the king out, so that's why I went king to g6. And I didn't have too much time to think, so that's why I played king g6. So here he plays I play king g6. And now black is totally winning. It's checkmate in 8. And black only has 1 move to win. But with 2 minutes on the clock, it's nearly impossible finding this move. I would invite you guys to pause the video to try to figure it out, but the engine kind of reveals the answer. And the move here is a5, which actually, if you look at it, it's a pretty logical move. All you're doing is you're inviting the rook to join the party and hunt the king down. So let's say, for instance, you take this pawn. Rook a6 check, king h5, rook h6 is mate. There's actually no way to stop rook a6. Crazy as it seems. Even though I'm up a full rook in this position, I cannot stop black's attack. That's the only winning move. But under low time, Ibrahim played bishop d7, attacking the knight on a4. And my first instinct was to move it to c3. But I'm like, if I do that, then black's rook's getting over here. And how am I going to stop rook f6? I'm just going to get mated. So what I do here is I give back some material, which isn't the best move, but it's a move to not be losing. Here I play knight takes e5, giving the knight back, but at least after the bishop takes on a4, I can run away with my king. I can get out of danger. I'm still up in exchange, and I'm like, okay, I can afford to give back something. As long as my king doesn't get mated, we're good. So after king f5, it's back to being a draw. We both have less than 5 minutes. Chaos is about to unfold here. So here he plays rook f8 check. I go king e6 to try to attack the pawn. He plays rook f6 check. I take on d5. He plays bishop to f4, trying to maybe go here and pin the knight. Again, this is pandemonium. This is blitz style. Mistakes are inevitably going to happen. And here I should have just played rook a to f1 and pinned the bishop to the rook, or maybe played something like this, just defending the bishop the knight that way. I didn't actually have to move it, but here I move it and play knight d3, which throws the game back to being a draw because bishop c6, and then I've just hung a pawn. Bishop takes g2. You might say, Dan, aren't you still up in exchange? And I would say, yeah. So how is this a draw? The answer is because of my king placement. Black can bother me with some checks and forces some sort of perpetual check, apparently. But in the game, Ibrahim played bishop d6. He was scared about trading too many pieces, so he tried to keep as many of his pieces on the board as possible. So here after bishop d6, I'm playing really fast. Rook h to f1. I had like 1.5 minutes. Here he played rook g6. I defend the pawn one way with rook f2. He plays check and takes on h4. Again, I'm slightly better here, but the time is very limited. I play rook a to f1 just to double and maybe create some sort of threat. He plays rook g4. I go knight e1 to defend the pawn on g2. He plays bishop e4 check. I go king c2. He plays bishop e4 check. Those bishops are really powerful, despite it being an endgame. I play king to d1. Here he trades bishops, which I was surprised. Then he plays rook takes g2. And I first thought I could just take the bishop, but I realized my rook on f2 is hanging. So I go into this line where I just exchange rooks. I play rook e7, getting on the second rank. And here he plays bishop d5, counterattacking the a-pawn. I play king c2, setting a little trap, because if bishop takes a2, this is a common motif, I would play b3 and lock his bishop in jail and win it with king b2 on the next turn. So maybe if he would be too discombobulated here to think properly. So here I play king c2, but he's receptive. He's 1690. He plays a6 here. I play a4. Again, chaos is bound to happen under each having less than a minute on the clock. And what's annoying here is that he was riding on less than a minute for a very long time and still staying sharp and alert. And meanwhile, I was taking my time, having a few minutes left, and also got into a timed scramble mode. So I guess I should have managed my time more wisely here. So like king f8, rook c7. He runs with the g-pawn. I play rook c5, x-ray attacking the pawn. So if the bishop moves somewhere, I would take on g5. So he plays bishop c6, counterattacking the a-pawn. And I'm totally winning if I take this pawn on g5. But I was scared that after bishop a4, I mean, the engine says this is totally winning for white, but honestly, it's really hard to win because I only have one pawn left and the pawns are on the same side of the board. So it's going to be a very challenging task to prevent black from trading off the pawn in some sort of way. The engine finds a way, but under low time, it's really not feasible here. So I played b3, putting the game back into a draw just to preserve my pawns. And I'm like, that pawn ain't really going anywhere. Bishop can't defend it. The king's too far away, so he has to play g4. And this is all I got to note-taking because I had like 10 seconds here. And then something bad happened. I flagged, and I lost the game. And this was pretty annoying that I flagged the game because it's kind of my fault. I took for too long just to get as many of the moves as possible. But from what I can remember, I put the rook on g5, brought the king up here, and I just flagged. That's all I can say. Like the clock was going to 1 second. I hit it just as the flag appeared on the clock, and I like slammed the table really loudly, like Magnus against Gukesh, LOL. And I lost again, painful loss against the 1700. And this game was just bonkers. If you look at the eval and the accuracy, 72.5 to 76.3. This game was just all over the place. It was a total circus. And we started the tournament off on a bad note, but hopefully we bounce back in the next game. I was kind of upset at this game. So hope you guys liked this game. Let me know what you thought of the video and about me coming back to making videos. And And subscribe if you haven't already, and have a great rest of your day or night. Bye.